So we formed this generator society. The initial members were Byrne, Bunn, Caperton, Congdon, Caroon, Cosgrove, Crowell, Cunningham, Dunlap, Grubbs, Harper, Hayes, Mahon, Poole, Snelling, Thomas, Tudor, Wester, and Charlie Young.
How about that?
The remarkable thing about Bald Head is when the news broke that they were going to develop Bald Head, there was an outcry against it. And actually, I was in that group. When it became clear that it would be developed, it became obvious that these people were serious about doing a good job and having covenants that would protect the environment. Everything looked like it was as good as it would ever be. So we did go ahead. Quite honestly, I think we're very pleased with the way it has held together. This is 25 plus years later.
And it was Thad Wester that pointed out that the conservationists are those that don't have their lot on Bald Head yet. The preservationists are those that already got their lot on Bald Head. And so that became pretty obvious that there was that void in the environmental movement. But how the land trust started, we didn't even know what a land trust was. The initial effort was simply to save the point of Cape Fear. And there were three young ladies, and I can't remember all their names, I won't try to, who were walking the beach and said that it would be terrible if the point were developed either commercially or even as a tourist attraction, and that it needed to be preserved. And it was about that time that the Mitchell family had come out with this really grandiose plan of development for that whole area. There was going to be a lake. You know, why you would want a lake just inside an ocean, I have no idea. But anyway, they're going to have a lake with a lot of condos around it, and even a hotel, and it would be a really big development. And a lot of us were opposed to that. I think Warren Jackson was one of the ones who wrote a letter that I know Sylvia and I signed on, and Brian Freck and a number of others signed on to this, completely opposing that plan. And fortunately, that plan never did materialize. We did succeed in opposing it, but we kind of formed an informal organization called the Friends of Cape Fear. And it was at that point, when our efforts to preserve Cape Fear, that Nancy McGuire came into the picture. Nancy was a person with vision, determination, capacity for work that is really unbelievable. And I'm convinced that were it not for her, there wouldn't be any Smith Island Land Trust now. But anyway, we eventually learned what a land trust was, and formed then, instead of the Friends of Cape Fear, the Smith Island Land Trust, otherwise known as SILT. I would say that the effort of the land trust can be kind of divided into three parts. The first part, led by Nancy, was the acquisition of Cape Fear itself by raising money from the Bald Head community and even people outside the Bald Head community. Nancy had a lot of connections in Washington, D.C., and I don't know, there must have been about 1,000 contributors altogether for that, the amount of money we had to raise in order to purchase Cape Fear and a couple of lots from the developer. And when that succeeded, we then decided, well, do we fold our tents and say, declare success and just disappear, or do we try to get more? Well, of course, we were flush with success, so we decided, well, let's try for some more land.
If you just ride down any of the winds and look around, and you see a maritime forest. We are in the maritime forest. It looks like it is the maritime forest. And protecting it, I think, is probably the greatest legacy we will leave.
And that second part was more, some money raised from contributors, but mostly from the state, working with the state. And we got then a whole, I don't know how many acres, I can't think of it right now, of maritime forest, which a lot of people felt was, from an ecological standpoint, was more important than the point anyway. You know, the point was sexier, and it was just, that was the beautiful thing. But the maritime forest, from an ecological and therefore environmental point of view, was really important. And of course, a bunch of that had already been purchased by the state from the developer. And then what we did was just add a bunch more acres to kind of complete the maritime forest preservation all the way down to the Conservancy campus. And that was what I call the second thing that the Land Trust did. And that was, as I said, mostly supported by the state.
Most everything here is on pilings. By using pilings, you don't disturb any root structure except where one piling goes, and that's about this big around. Look at that tree at the deck there, probably 7,500-year-old live oak.
That was my attitude. And I had a slogan that the island always comes first, ahead of anybody, me included. The island comes first. It's got to be preserved. And it is preserved. You get people maybe questionable, for lack of a very mild word in some cases. But
the third part of the Smith Island Land Trust is what is still going on now, and that is getting individual lot owners on Bald Head to decide that they want to preserve land. I mean, everybody's interested in conservation, but that's fine. That's just conserving as you develop. But preservation is taking the land out of development and leaving it in its pristine state. And more Bald Head residents have decided that for reasons of privacy or their view, or just to preserve land, have given their lot to a lot undeveloped that they own to the Land Trust. And that's the third part, and the one that I hope is still going on now, to try to get property owners who have an extra lot, or maybe even will purchase a undeveloped lot and then give it to the Land Trust.
nice boat over in Southport. Every time I pass Middle Island, Bald Head Island, going out the channel, look over there, very fondly and say, someday I'll have a piece of that island. It's ever developed. And I called my brother Richard, who's sitting over here. I said, he was in Charlotte, of course, and I said, Richard, I want you to come down here and look at something. I think it's be very beneficial to our children someday. So I mentioned to him the island, he knew where it was and all. So he came down there and we went away and looked at it and everything. And anyway, we ended up buying the island through John Message. I put Middle Island in one of the classic things in my lifetime.
I think that with significant leadership by the Conservancy and the Land Trust, the two of them together, that passion for maintaining the natural part of this island can be continued in the future. I think that there's enough people who have carried that from the beginning, from the early stages. I mean, I wish that Thad Wester could tell us more about that, and I wish Bill Byrne were still here. But there are still other people who I think have a strong feeling about this island. Of course, I'm going to find one to talk because I'm about to leave. But you know, you just reach a point where it's time to go. But I would say that my years on Bald Head were the best years of my life, and that I would not change it for anything. And I really have a strong feeling for this island. I don't want to leave, but I have confidence that I'm leaving behind a bunch of people who are going to carry this whole concept on, and I think this island will be here. And I'm going to come back to check on you.